Hello, and welcome to the Global Footballer Podcast. I'm Deepak, and with me is Monish. Today, we are going to discuss about the Saudi Pro League, one of the most exciting and probably most controversial things happening in football today. We got a lot of players going into Saudi Pro League, and it's quite exciting to see the growth of the league. So, today we'll be going through the most important clubs in the league, what's happening with the player roster, and who are our bets on to win the league, and go on from there. So, Monish will take us through all that. Monish, so tell us a bit more about the different clubs in the league and the background of the league in the first place.
So the first thing that people need to know about the Saudi League is Saudi Arabia as such has always been a footballing country. This was also the birthplace of the FIFA Confederations Cup. The first Confederations Cup was called the King Fahd Cup. The first three seasons or the first three Confederations Cup were in Saudi Arabia, and that's where the birthplace of that particular tournament happened. It has been closed down right now. The Saudi League was founded in 1976. The league sponsors right now are Roshan. That's why if you see the symbols over all the Cristiano Ronaldo highlights, you see RSL. Roshan is a real estate arm of PIF. There are 18 teams in the Saudi Pro League. It was 16 last year. They have increased the number of teams. PIF owns 75% stake in four clubs: Al-Hilal, Al-Nassr, Al-Ittihad, and Al-Ahli. We will be discussing them in detail as well. And each club in the Saudi Pro League has been allowed 8 foreign players. So Saudi has always been an Asian footballing powerhouse. They were also regularly, competing for the World Cup until 2008, and then for two editions of the World Cup, they did not qualify. After that, the last two editions, they qualified, and the last World Cup, if you remember, they had the shock win over the eventual world champions Argentina. So Saudi has always been a strong footballing team. They had a bleak period recently, but otherwise there is a football culture in there. The Saudi clubs as well, they keep winning the Asian Champions League or the Asian edition of the Champions League regularly. Al-Hilal especially has done very well in Asia. So that's about a brief introduction to football in Saudi. Also, I think I would like to add that Saudi, unlike many of the other countries, they mostly stick, I think they have not really taken any foreign player. They stick to their homegrown players to play football. Over to you, Deepak. Anything else you want to add?
You mean the national team of Saudi Arabia as well?
Yes, the national team is mostly constituted of Saudi born players. All right.
Okay.
And the viewership, if you just want to have an idea about how big football is in Saudi Arabia, their biggest stadium has a capacity of 65,000. Last year, Al-Ittihad, the biggest club, the eventual champions, had a 40,000 average capacity. The average attendance in Saudi is 48%, which is around 10,000. That's more to do with the size of the stadiums as well. So football is well supported, is well followed, and especially in the big clubs have very good attendance. It's just that right now they have gotten statement signings. They always were good players who are going to Saudi Arabia sometimes during the end of their career or so. And in fact, if we start going through the clubs, we'll realize there are a lot of players, if you wonder where they were, they're actually playing in Saudi Arabia right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know, Monish. So obviously it looks like a country with a lot of wealth, plus a country which has historically been supporting football and which historically has had football as its number one sport. So I guess the opportunity for success is quite high. And that's, I think, shown in the amount of transfer money that's been spent this transfer window. There's a massive push by the PIF to take the Saudi Pro League into a competing level with European leagues, I believe. And Newcastle, I'm wearing the jersey, is also 80% owned by PIF. So there's investment directly into European football and investment into the Saudi Pro League, taking them to the level of European football. And I think that's well on its way to happening. Now, just a few things about the clubs, Monish. Who are the most important, perhaps? In the Premier League, we have the Big Six. Now, I would say it's a Big Seven with Newcastle in it. But who are the Big Six or Seven in the Saudi Pro League?
So first we probably would kind of divide it into the biggest three clubs. Al-Hilal, which has won 18 titles. Al-Nassr. Al-Nassr is known now all over the world. It has won 9 titles, and Al-Ittihad, which has won 9 titles as well. Apart from that, I think we need to discuss or speak about Al-Shabab, which has won 6 titles, Al-Ahli, which has won 3 titles, and Al-Ittifaq, which has won 2 titles. It's also important to note that some of these clubs share some names with clubs in different Arab countries, because the meaning of the names are probably the same. Like Al-Shabab is the boys, and Al-Ahli I think is the Reds. So you will see similar clubs, clubs with similar names in the UAE league or some other league that's in the in the Arab countries. Apart from this, also in the Champions League, Al-Hilal has won 4 titles. They have
Asian
been the
Champions League. I mean.
Yes, they have been the powerhouses of the Asian Champions League. They have won 4 titles and 5 runners-up. Al-Ittihad has won it twice, and Al-Ahli, Al-Shabab, and Al-Nassr have been runners-up as well. So these are the big clubs. As we mentioned, I think Al-Shabab and Al-Ettifaq are 2 clubs that are worth noting, apart from the big 4 that have been taken over by the PIF.
Okay. And out of the big 4, who you said the most successful team has been Al-Ittihad?
Al-Hilal.
Al-Hilal. Okay.
Al-Hilal has been the most successful team. Al-Ittihad has just won it recently, and Al-Hilal, if you even notice, I think the supporters are quite strong. They have good T4Cs, good banners. If you notice, if you go look at them in YouTube, Al-Ittihad as well has very strong support. Al-Nassr is also well supported, and even more so after the coming of Cristiano Ronaldo. And Al-Ahli. Let's start talking. I think we start talking about Al-Hilal. So
we'll start talking about the clubs. Do you want to start with Al-Ahli or Al-Hilal?
Okay, I'll start talking about Al-Ahli. Al-Ahli basically, so they were promoted this year. All right, Al-Ahli for the first time in their history, they had been relegated, if I'm not mistaken, and they are promoted this year. The importance of Al-Ahli is also the fact that they share a huge stadium. King Abdullah Sports City is in Jeddah. They are a Jeddah-based team. So Jeddah is the second largest city in Saudi Arabia. It's a coastal city. Neom, it's on the Red Sea, and Neom, if you know, is also being built across the Red Sea. That's where all the investment is coming in. The Grand Prix is also in Jeddah.
Yeah,
so,
I was going to say the Formula One Grand Prix takes place in Jeddah every year.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the important thing about Al-Ahli. But Al-Ahli, as you know, were in the equivalent of first division in the Saudi League, and now they have back to the Pro League. So if you notice, they are the club probably that has invested more in players. They have gotten more players than other clubs in terms of volume. They have won maximum Kings Cup titles. And their manager it's interesting. So their manager is Matthias Jasli. I think I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He was the manager of RB Salzburg after Jesse Marsch left RB Salzburg, and he got them into the I think 2 years back they even reached the knockout phase of the Champions League.
Matthias Jasli is obviously a member of the Red Bull program. Red Bull footballing program comes from that sort of brain in which you build a club from nothing and take it to higher echelons by smart recruitment, by having a good academy in place and spending the right amount on transfers. So I think that's definitely a good pickup for Al-Ahli, and I think that's shown in their transfers this year. As you mentioned, they've spent quite a lot of money on transfers. Who have they bought, Monish?
I think about the players. So they have gotten Frank Kessie, they have gotten Firmino, they've gotten Edouard Mendy, they have gotten Riyad Mahrez, who is one of the players. I'm a big fan of Riyad Mahrez, honestly. Roger Ibanez, Mary Demirel, and they have gotten one of your favorites, Deepak. So let's just talk about. Yes, exactly. So let's just talk about what do you think about their transfer strategy? And I mean, are you excited for any of the players? Would you follow? Would you watch their games?
I think they have completely revamped their front line with Firmino, Mahrez, and Saint-Maximin. So the front three is pretty much set, and Frank Kessie in midfield was a great player. I'm not entirely sure why he left Barca at the age of 26 or 27. He admittedly, he wasn't getting many games in Barca and he was sort of relegated to the bench. But this was a guy who, when he moved to Barca from AC Milan, was at the peak of his career and was touted as the next big thing. Obviously, things didn't work out in Barca, but perhaps he could have tried one last shot. But I'm sure that speaks to the sort of project that Al-Ahli might have presented to him to get him. St. Maximin is also a player at the peak of his career, perhaps 26, 27. This sort of player who's got good few years in front of him. He's very unpredictable, as we've discussed before. He's not somebody who's a manager's player. He's somebody who's a fan's player. He'd love to take fans on a journey, just with his trick showboating, beating players. Basically, that's the sort of thing that you watch football for. And he'll give that plenty. Firmino's a clinical finisher, seen that loads. And Riyad Mahrez, as you said, is probably the most pedigree proven player in this entire lineup. Roger Ibanez, I'm not entirely sure. I think Roma did well to get the sort of money that they got for him. And Demirel, he has had his ups and downs again, but I'm sure they will be more than adequate for the Pro League. And they've literally changed their entire spine from the front three, centre midfielder, Kessie, centre backs, and to the goalkeeper. So the entire spine of their squad has been revamped, and it's a spine that probably do good in pretty much any league around the world. So I think excellent recruitment. What do you think, Monish?
Yeah, it's great recruitment. They have gotten a huge bunch of players, and I think they have also hit the ground running. Kessie, if you notice, Barcelona, now I support Barcelona in La Liga, but they have really been just taking in anybody they could get the last 2 years. I don't know, and players, because it's their dream to play for Barcelona, they go join them.
Yeah, I
And
think
many
it was a
of
free
them are,
transfer, wasn't it, to Barcelona?
yeah,
It
yeah,
wasn't like
but
they spent a lot of money. So yeah,
yeah,
true.
exactly. So that this has happened with a lot of players who are finally left on the bench, and this is basically Barcelona, but it was a bit unfair on their part when they got in a lot of these players just trying to fix their financial fair play issues, their monetary issues, and trying to get players on the cheap. And they got anybody they could get their hands on and kept trying for some players. Honestly, it wasn't probably, I would say, done the right way. Anyways, let's move on. Next club, Deepak, who do you want to talk about?
Yep, sure. Al-Hilal.
So
We'll
Al-Hilal,
talk
the
about
18-time champions, Riyadh-based
new
club.
home of Neymar, obviously. So everybody's
Yes.
interested in them now.
So Al-Hilal actually, I think, had a transfer embargo or transfer issue during their pursuit of Cristiano Ronaldo, if I'm not wrong. And that's what stopped them. They had a recent transfer ban because they got in Mohamed Kanu. They re-signed with them instead of going. He reneged on a deal with Al-Nassr before. He was with them and he was supposed to go to Al-Nassr. Anyways, so Al-Hilal is a big club, big support, great pedigree. They play in the King Fahad. So they are planning to move to a planned cliff-top stadium soon, which is going to come up in Riyadh. Riyadh is the capital city. The last year, they finished third. And their coach is Jorge Jesus, or Jorge Jesus. I think that's how he's pronounced. Al-Hilal is a very strong Saudi national team contingent. They are so out of the 26 squad members who went to Qatar, 12 play for Al-Hilal. Okay, so they already had a very strong Saudi squad, and previously there were some very big players playing in Al-Hilal. Bafétimbi Gomes has played there. Sebastian Yovenko has played there, and the top scorer last season was Odion Ighalo. He has been transferred to another club in the Saudi.
Former Manchester United fame.
Yes, big Manchester United fan as well. He's transferred to another club in Saudi right now. So the foreign arrivals, Neymar, I think, I still think he is a fantastic player when fit and one of the biggest players in the world. Honestly, if they had even gotten Messi, I think it would have just completed the triumvirate of the topmost players of 2010 football. Malcolm, they have gotten in Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, who was always linked to Manchester United. Ruben Neves, also another player always linked to Manchester United. I think Manchester United were linked to too many players over the last 5 years, coming to think of it now. Kalidou Koulibaly has come in, Alexander Mitrovic, Fulham's goal scorer, and Bono, the good-looking Moroccan goalkeeper, is also now playing for Al-Hilal. He had a lot of female fans anyways. Yeah. So Deepak, what do you think about their signings at least? What do you
Yeah, I think
excited?
very impressive signings. Obviously, Neymar is probably the highlight of those signings, but I think Neymar probably from a sporting point of view, from a clear tactical or footballing point of view, he is probably not the most important because the midfield signings I think can uh, give Neymar would be great from a commercial point of view, but from a footballing point of view, I think Sergei Milinkovic-Savic and Ruben Neves are probably going to give them a lot of control in games, a lot of impetus to go and win games, and I think that's going to be the most important thing for Al Hilal. They've strengthened their midfield enormously. They've got Koulibaly in the back, who lots of people with his Chelsea performance last year said he's past it. Perhaps he is, but I'm sure he's more than decent to play in the Saudi Pro League. They've strengthened again midfield and their defense. Attacking wise, you said they probably rely a lot on the Saudi Arabian players, and honestly, I have to admit I don't know a lot about them. And Igalo is there, so perhaps he can put away chances created by Neymar.
Igalo has been transferred. He
Oh, is
was
he?
there
Okay.
last season. So he has been transferred out to another club in the Saudi Pro League. He's playing for Al Wahda, I think. And
Okay.
I think they're going to rely obviously on Neymar, and there's Mitrovic. Mitrovic, when he is on song, he scores goals in bunches. So yeah, I think they have that sorted out.
If they have,
I'm
oh,
not-
sorry, I didn't realize that Mitrovic had signed for Al Hilal. That was my
Yeah.
um, me
Anyways.
glossing over facts. But yeah, clearly, obviously, if Neymar can have a relationship with Mitrovic, then I think again it's going to be quite saucy.
Yes, it is. So next team, Deepak, who do you want to talk about?
Al-Ittihad, Benzema.
Al-Ittihad, the defending champions,
Yeah, the
yellow
defending champions.
jerseyed, Jeddah-based club, again play in the King Abdullah Sports City.
I found
Stadium
their
at
emblem to be quite distinctive. I think
yes, yes, and they are the second largest stadium in Saudi Arabia, the one of the most well-supported clubs in Saudi Arabia. The manager is Nuno Espirito Santo. Ring a bell,
Yes,
Deepak?
of course it does. Tottenham Hotspurs, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Well, I think we shouldn't associate him too much with Tottenham because his time there was a disaster. I think he lasted all of 8 or 9 games.
Yes.
But I've been hearing that there's a confrontation between Nuno Espirito Santos and Benzema. Any truth in it, Monish?
I'm not really sure on that, but yes, Ivan, there is some news that he is not happy with Benzema. But Benzema is
He doesn't fit into his tactical plan, it seems. Like, what sort of nonsense is that? And if it comes to Benzema versus Nuno Espirito Santo, I think there's only going to be one winner. So he perhaps should pack his bags as well while he's making this sort of a fight.
yeah, and most importantly, I don't know, Nuno Espirito Santo for some reason has never won over the press. If you notice, he
Yeah.
always gets the raw end of the deal. I'm not sure how good a manager he is,
I think
but
he
yeah,
was really
he was
good
at
in
Wolves.
Wolverhampton at least. He was.
Yes.
That's why he ended up getting the Spurs job. Eventually, also Spurs ran out of options, but still, he was good enough. I think he did a really good job in Wolves. But
Yeah.
obviously, he needs to be able to handle players like Benzema, Fabinho, Kante. So he needs to up his game a little bit. I
You
think
mean the man management basically?
man management, of course, these are all superstars. These
They
are
are.
not players that he has sort of managed in the past.
They are. And so the big arrivals are Jota, Kante, Benzema, and Fabinho. The top scorer last season, Abdul Razak Hamdallah from Morocco, if you have again followed the
Yeah,
FIFA World Cup.
Abdurazak Amdallah has been a FIFA legend for a long time, so I understand that he plays for Al-Ittihad, or followed him before.
Okay, interesting. So you've bought him or something in your
Yeah,
manager?
Hamdallah is, yeah, he's been a FIFA legend before, so I bought him before. Yeah, although
Interesting.
his level of actual games has never lived up to his FIFA legend status, but I think he is a good player. He'll probably switch well with Benzema.
He
He
is. He
plays in a
is.
sort of similar position, doesn't he? He plays as a
Yes.
striker. So I'm
Yes, he
not sure whether
does.
he'll be playing alongside Benzema or whether he'll be replaced by Benzema.
Benzema is how old now? 38, 39? I forget. So
Yeah,
he's
38.
quite, yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure they'll figure it out. So, yeah, that's about Al Ittihad. Also, one of the defending champions, and I think one of the bets to probably win the league this season, one of the big bets to win the league this season. They are just the important thing about Saudi Pro League, they're still recruiting players. Their transfer
Benzema's
window
only 35,
opens.
by the way. Sorry. I think I
Sorry,
was
yeah.
thinking of Modric when I said 30. But
Yes.
Benzema is only 35, just to correct
Oh,
ourselves.
yeah, he's only 35 then. So Saudi Pro League, the transfer window goes in a bit longer, so they can keep buying players. Probably by the end of this transfer window, they'll have another 5 or 6 players for all we know. So that's about Al Ittihad. Next team, Deepak, want to go for the big one?
Well, Al-Nassr.
Al Nassr, a Riyadh-based club, play in Al Awal Park. They were the second. They finished second last season. Their manager Louis Castro, top scorers last season Anderson Talisca and our one and only Cristiano Ronaldo. They have bought in a few players
People
this
might have heard
season.
of him.
Yeah, he's a good player. He plays well. He used to play for Manchester United twice and
Did he?
Real Madrid
Oh,
and all of that.
all
You
right,
know.
okay. So comes with some pedigree.
Yes, he has
Okay.
he at least comes with pedigree. So yeah, they got in Otavio, they got in Alex Telles, Marcelo Brozovic, a very good signing, Seko Fofana, and I think Sadio Mane is one of the biggest signings in the Saudi Pro League this season because he's
Yeah, I
tearing it
think
apart already.
Mane is really good. And the association of Mane with Cristiano is definitely something to look out for.
Exactly. Mane seems to be happy. He seemed a bit unhappy in Liverpool, to be honest, by his last season. Bayern
Mm.
Munich, they got him to replace. I'm not sure he was not bought to replace Lewandowski, but I think he was expected to replace some of the goals, the style of play. I'm not really sure what happened there, but didn't really
They're
end well.
very different players. I
Exactly,
don't think
exactly. But they were
Ben
not. He's
understood that.
I think Payan understood that, but the problem with the whole thing that happened is obviously the fans would look at, okay, we lost our superstar and we got this big guy, and so you expect him to replace probably the goals to some extent, and
Yeah,
yeah,
but
that
they
didn't work
didn't
out.
replace Lewandowski at all. They
They
ended up
didn't. This
relying
season they
on
have.
Choupo-Moting and his goals. Well, I think Choupo-Moting has done well for himself over his career, but he's nowhere near to that level of Lewandowski. So if you are getting Mane in, you need to have somebody of a similar quality in the middle to finish chances off. And he
Exactly.
never got a relationship working with anybody in the pitch. And I think it's probably good for both of them that he's moved to Al Nassr. He can
Yes.
continue his career, and Bayern have now signed Kane, so worked out well in the
Exactly.
end, I guess.
And Kane has done
Marcelo
well.
Brozovic, yeah, Kane has done well. Marcelo Brozovic is and Seko Fofana again, two top class midfielders, I think, who have been brought in to strengthen that spine and give some rigidity. I think the theme here is most teams have made sure that their central midfield, they've got some good youngish to middle, I mean, sort of at the peak sort of players in their peak of their career who can take a hold of matches and control matches and make sure that their sort of aging front line can go ahead and just score the goals, because most most teams have bought players who are towards the end of their career as goal scorers, but they rely on their midfielders doing the sort of legwork for them and making sure that the teams can actually run and compete and control the game so that these guys can finish off the chances. And I think they've done well with Marcelo Brozovic and Seko Fofana. Seko Fofana especially, I think, was destined for a big move before in somewhere in Europe before this happened. So again, really good signing, I think. Mane, Ronaldo, Alex Telles, I'm not entirely sold on. You can tell me more about him, Monish. You've seen him
Uh,
play for Manchester
yeah,
United.
I mean, he's not bad. He's good offensively. Got
Would
good
you have taken
crosses
him
with him.
now that Shaw is injured? Would you have taken him as a
Definitely.
backup?
Definitely anybody, because I mean, right now I think they are going for a whole host of
Cucurella.
other players. Exactly, Cucurella is being linked with us, so it would be nice to just have him until Shaw or Malaysia come back. So
Mm.
yeah, Brozovic. So that's the thing. Saudi Pro League, when they have bought players, they have not just gone for the big names; they have also gone for quality. It's
Mm.
they have gotten that one
And
star-studded
Anderson
player.
Talisca, I think, is a fantastic player. He's
Exact.
proven it for a long time. In
Yes.
China, I believe he used to play in China before. I believe it's
Yeah.
now in Saudi. He's played in sort of non-European leagues, but he's stood out wherever he's played. But so I think he's a really good player, and I think he's mm, having a good relationship with Ronaldo already, just playing behind him in that sort of number 10 role. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think Al Nassr have a good team.
They do, they do. Moving on, next club, Al-Shabab. I think we'll talk about
Mm,
Al-Shabab. So Al-Shabab, we'll just go across two more clubs. These are
sure.
non-PIF clubs. Al-Shabab, the six-time champion, fourth last season. They probably would be feeling hard done by because they have a decent supporter base as well. Okay, they are Riyadh-based. The coach is Marcel Kelza. Stadium, Al-Shabab Club Stadium. So the key players, if anyone remembers, Ever Banega, uh, fantastic player. He is one of their main players. They've got in Habib Diallo and Gustavo Cuellar. Their last season top scorer, Christian Guanca, is out on loan. So this club has a lot of pedigree, have been big in Saudi football, but were obviously not one of the clubs that were taken over by PIF.
Mm,
So not that much investment, but again, a very good club, and they have always been that club that punches above its weight. So apart from the top four clubs, you can see them somewhere around the mix. At least they hope to be there. They have finished fourth last season, so they do have they have a good squad, honestly.
mm,
Moving on, one more club I think we want to talk about is Al-Ittifaq. Al-Ittifaq in the news for having Steven Gerrard as the
yep,
manager. Yeah.
yep.
Was great in Scotland, flopped in England. Let's see what he does in Saudi Arabia. Based in Dammam, it's the third largest city in Saudi Arabia. So they've gotten Jordan Henderson, Steven Gerrard, getting I think helping out his Liverpool buddy. I'm not really sure. And Musa Dembele, who was linked with big names a few years ago, was playing for Lyon, is now moved to Al Ittifaq. What do you think about Steven Gerrard's coaching pedigree, Deepak? What did you think about him last year and all of that? Okay, at least is he better than Frank Lampard as a coach?
I think he's perhaps better than Frank Lampard, but that's very debatable. I think that debate can go either way because Frank Lampard did a good job at Derby County and a reasonably good job with Chelsea when they had that transfer embargo. But Steven Gerrard, on the other hand, has done a reasonably good job with Rangers, and that couldn't be translated to Aston Villa after that. Gerrard was a colossal disaster in Aston Villa, to the point Unai Emery came in and took them from 18th to 6th in the league the same season. Um, I think Gerrard's problem is he's not very flexible, and I think this is a problem that managers who have been great players find it difficult. Not a lot of players who have played at the extreme peak of their game become great managers, and that's because they expect all the players to play at their level, and you can't expect everybody to play at that level on how these great players were playing when they were at the peak of their game. It becomes, I think, slightly unrealistic, and I think Gerard has talked about that publicly as well. That he's found it difficult that people can't hit the sort of level that he expects of them, and he doesn't have a lot of flexibility when people don't reach that level. He doesn't change his tactics around, change his way of playing football to match what he has. He always wants what he doesn't have, perhaps, and that's not really worked well. So I'm not entirely sure this is the best move for him because of that. Because obviously, he couldn't. Obviously, with Rangers, he was doing really well because Scotland is a two-team league. There's nobody else outside of Celtic and Rangers who can compete, and so his struggle was always literally a couple of games a season against Celtic. Beyond that, he didn't have a lot of challenge. When he came to Aston Villa, the levels went up, and he couldn't match that level. Um, now, the problem with Al-Ettifaq is he's obviously got Jordan Henderson and Musa Dembele, but beyond that, I'm not sure whether he'll have unrealistic expectations from these players and struggle to get coach them up to the level that he wants to, which has always been a trouble for him. So I think that's my biggest concern with Gerrard. What do you think? Do you think he'll do well?
I'm not sure. I've never rated him much as a manager, at least from what I saw in Aston Villa. So that's what I think about Steven Gerrard. I think both of them have not been great managers, even Frank
Yeah.
Lampard, to be honest. Anyways, so I think that brings an end to our Saudi Pro League discussion, Deepak. Your pick, which team? Just one word. Which team do you think?
Um, well, I've always been a Ronaldo fan, so I'll go with Al-Nassr.
Interesting. I hope Al-Ittihad wins the league this season. That's it.
Okay. So
All right.
Benzema for you. All right. That was
I like the jersey. It's yellow. Okay.
okay. Fair
All
enough.
right. Okay.
All right, Manish. That was a good chat. Thank you for taking us through all the clubs in the Saudi Pro League. I
Yeah,
hope
the
you
important
have
clubs.
all the important clubs. Yes, we should mention that. Thank you everybody for listening. And if you've liked what you've listened to, please like, share, and subscribe. See you the next time. Thank you.
Thank you.